Okay, well, welcome everyone. So the title of this workshop, this time together, is Staying Positive and Resilient During a Job Search. So we're going to talk about staying positive and resilient, but in a grounded, realistic way. This is about reducing inattention, preserving energy, and learning how to show up steady, especially when the search takes longer than expected. Um, I've worked with people who've been in the job search for up to 2 years, and it can be a very stressful time for them personally and for their families. And I know what you're probably thinking. You're financial people, and you're expecting spreadsheets, you're expecting data, and some guy in a suit who doesn't talk about feelings and emotions. But this my approach is a very non-traditional approach. So why are we here? The objective of this session is practical. We're here to understand the tension between inner dialogue and the thoughts we choose in response to it, and how that tension creates fatigue during the job search. So we'll look at tools to reduce inner tension, strengthen resilience and stamina, and help you stay engaged without burning out. This is not about forcing positivity or pretending things are fine. It's about building sustainable resilience over time so you can continue showing up as a creator of your own experience and not a victim of circumstance.
Mhm.
So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to just ask. So we're gonna
Do
go
you
through.
know, Joe, I'm going to ask a quick question here. I had to look up the other day, what does it really mean to anybody, what it means to be grounded? Because we say that word, it's a bit of a buzzword, but not most of us, maybe not everyone understands what it means to be grounded. Could you share what your definition might be?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So the way I look at grounded is really just being present, being mindful, being in the moment, feeling you're more connected to your body, more
Okay.
connected, more connected to your heart.
Hmm.
That's the way I use grounded.
Understood. Okay. Really focusing on your intuition, your inner self.
Yes,
Got
definitely.
it.
Thank you. Thanks for that question, Julie.
You're welcome.
So the core tension, inner dialogue versus chosen thoughts. So this is the core tension most people experience, right? Especially when you've been in the job search for 3 months, 6 months, a year. You can start your inner dialogue can really start getting nasty. Um,
Hmm.
and so your inner dialogue comes usually first, and it's automatic. It's our default. Maybe I'm getting too old. Uh, they don't see my value. Why aren't the recruiters calling me? Whatever the reason is, I don't have the right skills. Um, and the thoughts aren't chosen, they just show up. So what can we choose? What can we do instead? Instead of being reactive, we want to respond in a rational way. So you can go with more empowering thoughts like, I'm capable, I bring value, I've succeeded before. I'm not really going to get into it in this presentation, but you could Google search affirmations and having mantras and affirmations that you say to yourself that speak to you. And that's a powerful way to calm yourself down. But you have to obviously believe it. So, you know, when you say I'm capable, you want to think about maybe maybe you've been in the industry for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Think about the skills, think about your experience, and think about that like you are capable. You do bring value. You have succeeded before. So definitely leverage that. And fatigue doesn't come from having doubt. It comes from constantly negotiating between the inner dialogue and the thoughts you're choosing to hold. Any questions around this yet? We can also just save the questions for the end. But if there's something burning you want to jump in, please do. So the ABC thought log. this is this is something that was developed by a psychologist, I think in the 70s. I forgot his name. And it talks about the A stands for activating event, right? Something happens to you in your job search, and that triggers a response. So a rejection email, no response after multiple follow-ups, right? Seeing peers or former colleagues land roles, right? Maybe someone has only been looking for 2 months and they landed a role, and you've been looking for 6 months. An interview that felt like it went poorly. That's an activating event. And the belief could be, this approach isn't working. Something must be wrong with me. They don't see my value. I'll never find the right fit. And there's a risk in continuing with that belief because that's going to lead to stress. It's going to lead to anxiety. It probably will lead to reduced motivation, which will lead to you taking less action, maybe reaching out less to recruiters, um, tapping into your network. Because if you don't see your value, if you're down on yourself, then you're not going to show up with the right energy to everyone in your network in your personal life. And there's an emotional consequence, right? The automatic thoughts here, beliefs, they're going to lead to self-doubt, anxiety about the future, loss of motivation to continue, lower confidence in networking or interviews. So stuff that I just mentioned. And I'm sure everyone here could relate. If you've been in the job search for a few months, I'm sure there have been events that happened that led to any, negative beliefs. And if anyone wants to jump in and share their experiences, I don't want to put you on the spot, feel free to jump in. Okay, so, you know, let's we want to question our beliefs, right? I want you to take a moment now for really honest self-reflection and write down one belief about yourself or your future you're willing to question. Because we're all carrying these beliefs that don't serve us anymore. I'm getting too old for this. It shouldn't be this hard. I missed my window. They don't see my value. Can everyone take a few minutes and write down beliefs that maybe don't serve you anymore? Maybe you can cast doubt on those beliefs. Maybe there's not enough support for those beliefs. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. If anyone would like to share, if you're brave enough, feel free to jump in and share any beliefs that you're willing to question and challenge and may not be serving you.
Yeah, Joe,
Okay.
I
Here,
would
Joe.
say that
Oh, go ahead.
organizations not reinvesting in their people or wanting them to stay is something that I think I can cut loose or let go, even though I feel it's the case. I don't think it's serving me, like you mentioned.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah. And how do you think that belief could have a negative effect on you?
Well, you're carrying too much negative energy or focus on the past, instead of saying cutting loose and saying, what can I build as opposed to what is holding me back or serving as an anchor rather than kind of adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, you mentioned something about energy. What was it about energy that you mentioned?
Well, I think I mean, I really didn't realize it until, I mean, it's kind of been in the back of my mind, but until you started kind of diving into some of the examples, it really crystallized that I think there is some just focus around the past that I just can let go. I mean, the past is the past. So, like, I've spent a good part of my career, particularly in consulting, and I love the nature of the work. And I felt that they invested in their people, but when I moved into industry, I didn't see that as the case. And I think that is critical for a company, for an organization to reinvest in its people. And it still kind of baffles me why they don't.
Yeah. And some, so, I have a great example. Steven's familiar with a lot of things that have happened to me. So I was holding on to some negative energy in my life about some personal things, and I cleared that up in December or early December, late November, and so much positive opportunities came to me, a lot of abundance that I wasn't even searching for. Big opportunities. And I kind of think of it as, imagine we're in a house with windows and Frank, you're asking me like, hey, where's the sunlight? And I have the blinds closed. So the sun's always there. The abundance is there, right? But we have the blinds closed. And the blinds could be our limiting beliefs. It could be, scarcity, fear, um, resentment, guilt, whatever it is, that's blocking the sun. So I like how you mentioned that. Thank you.
So I think when I first started my search, I had a belief that quantity and quality went hand in hand in how I prioritize my day in reaching out to network and doing applications. And I set up metrics for myself that were not really valuable in the long run. And I'll give you an example. It's like, okay, so my goal was, okay, 5 people to network on a daily basis, 5 applications, but and then not doing 5 applications because I didn't find the right jobs I wanted and using all the search engines. I felt like deflated at the end of the day because I only did 2, as an example. So it took me a while to really transform how I saw the search, and that it was really about the quality and not necessarily the quantity, and it helped me see myself a little bit clearer. But it took a while. It wasn't overnight.
And what do you think led to that? Thank you, Stephen.
A number of things, self-reflection, the discussions that you and I have had, but really seeing the big picture and seeing where you really want to be, and how do you do that? It's not a race, it's a journey. And if you treat it as a journey, but keeping the end game in mind, it, clearly that connected the dots for me a little bit better, and it made me probably lessen the doubt I had about myself, if you will.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned the journey, right? Also, part of the journey is just realizing wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to be at that moment, and accepting that. Not getting into complacent, but realizing like just giving yourself some grace. I'm here at this moment. I can create a different reality. I'm not a victim of circumstance. I am a creator, but this is part of my journey. So I think that helps also, if that makes sense. All right, everyone. So we're going to go to positivity. I'm sure everyone here has, um, heard of the idea of toxic positivity and being optimistic and everything like that. So forced positivity feels feels good briefly, but then it drains you. Think of it this way. Forced positivity is like putting duct tape over the check engine light. The light stops blinking, but the engine is still rattling. You're ignoring the signal that's meant to protect you, right? So how it shows up, ignoring doubt, covering up information. Doubt is often asking for clarity. It's not signaling failure. So when doubt comes up, I'm not saying to repress it, suppress it, and ignore it. What you want to do is face it. You want to have self-awareness around the doubt. And that's something we're going to get into later when we speak about meditation, mindfulness, stuff like that. But you definitely want to be aware of your emotions, your feelings, and your thoughts, and just hold space for it. And in pushing fear away, for example, uh, it can be exhausting, right? Imagine holding a beach ball underwater. All your energy, goes into that. So just stay positive. It creates more inner tension. Your body knows when you're pretending, and doubt goes underground, right? The suppressed fear drains you, and inner tension increases. So resilience doesn't come, and that's what we're here for, right? To become more resilient in our job search. Resilience doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from awareness. And I like the saying I heard in a book one time that what you're aware of, you're in control of. What you're not aware of is in control of you, right? So awareness, awareness, awareness. It's all about being conscious and being mindful. If anyone has any questions around that, please feel free to jump in. So this is something, Stephen, you might want to speak to this at some point, but visualization is huge, right? I'm sure everyone here has heard stories of the Olympians, professional athletes, visualizing, seeing themselves win the race, seeing themselves, shoot the baskets, and that there's power in that. So visualization can actually build resilience. Visualization, when it's used correctly, right? It'll help you remain more calm. It can help you be more confident in conversations. It's going to help you show up grounded. That word came up earlier. Um, you can visualize yourself communicating better, um, going through interviews. How are you going to show up in interviews? And you can visualize yourself receiving the offer. And I would recommend doing this every day, like closing your eyes for 5 minutes and just visualize you winning, you landing that job that you want. Hopefully, assuming that it's the right job and you're climbing up the right ladder.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that you just do once. It takes a while to understand yourself as an individual. Visualization can also mean manifestation to some folks. Sometimes we do it unconsciously, sometimes we do it consciously. But I think what Joe, as an example, is, you're not doing it just with your mind, you're doing it with your body as well, because they have to be connected for it to really have some meaning for you on a consistent basis.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. And you're 100% right that your mind has to be connected with your body. And this will train your nervous system, right? And it's going to train your nervous system to become more familiar with success and to reduce anxiety. Because if your nervous system isn't comfortable with success, then guess what? You might self-sabotage. If you have subconscious beliefs that think there's something wrong with having a lot of money or having success, because maybe there are negative things that come with this, then it's going to self-sabotage. You're going to pass up on good opportunities, if that makes sense. And I,
Can
I was I was working with someone yesterday who works in the media. She's a TV show journalist, and I just learned this yesterday that they don't make a lot of money. They full-time TV journalists are making like 40, $50,000 a year. And and she wants to get other opportunities, and she has a fear of making a lot of money. She because of the way she was raised. And she has limiting beliefs around sales, around asking for more. So there's work to be done there sometimes. Did someone want to say something?
Yeah, Joe, hi, it's Melissa Langdon. And just on this point, and we can take it at the end if you'd rather, but specifically, maybe not specifically, but maybe an example of what are you visualized? So I'm in a job transition like some others here. And to Steve's point, if this is a practice to do daily, and I understand the power of that, what is it I'm actually visualizing? Am I visualizing a phone call with a job offer that I haven't even interviewed for yet because I don't, you're sourcing opportunities and sourcing networking to find those opportunities to get the interviews to ultimately get the job offer. But what am I visualizing really?
Yeah.
And is it specific or not specific, or how do you make that a daily practice that then creates all these benefits?
So would you mind if I take you through an exercise and ask you some questions?
Sure, sure.
So may I ask, what kind of role are you applying for?
I'm looking for and applying for business unit or divisional CFO roles or heads of finance, heads of FP&A types of roles in New York City.
Okay. And let me ask you this. If you have you had these roles before?
Yes.
Okay. And if you landed, what's your dream role? What does it look like? What kind of company? What kind of role?
It's a mid-sized company somewhere in New York City that's commutable, and maybe I'm the deputy CFO or a business unit CFO.
Okay. And think about if you want to say, if not, that's okay. Maybe you don't know yet, but think about the salary range that you would be
Mhm,
offered also,
mhm.
and think about what that would do for you. Can you close your eyes for a second and just feel in your body what that would feel like if you landed that role tomorrow and you got your dream salary working for a
It
great
would
company?
it would be relief and exhilarating at the same time.
So can you close your eyes for a minute and just breathe into
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Take a few breaths with me.
Okay.
Can you think about what that would do for you and for people in your life?
Yes.
Okay. How does it feel?
It's relief, it's excitement, it's eagerness, to jump back in and be working on something that's I've been working towards finding. It's all of those different, very positive feelings.
Nice. So imagine, try to step into that feeling every day
Mm, okay.
because feeling is powerful. And this might be a little, you know, metaphysical and woo-woo for this group, for this financial group, but this is the world that I operate in. And I came from law and a consulting background, but I believe in the idea. There are teachers that talk about this idea of, we have what you may not believe in a higher power, but I do. So we have a piece of God inside us, a piece of light, and what we believe and think and feel, we actually create, right? And I believe in the idea, the principle that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, and we are creators, right? So if you're feeling positive and you're feeling good and it's real to you, you're
Mhm.
more likely to attract that. And I have dozens of experiences in my own life, and I can refer you to books that give you thousands of case studies that support this claim. So that's an idea of what visualization will look like. That's one
Okay.
simple way. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Very helpful. Thank you.
Great, my pleasure.
Can I make a quick addition to that?
Sure, Julie.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said, all the way top to bottom. But going back to the very, very beginning, where she's asking what is it she's actually believing, you have to formulate that for yourself, your dream role. You have to formulate that vision for yourself. What exactly is it? And then you have to believe yourself capable of achieving that. You have to pull that in onto yourself, your intuition. You have to be cohesive with your belief, your thoughts, your dream, and have firm conviction that this is what you're going to this is what you're going to create for yourself.
Amen. Yes.
With no doubts and no fears.
You got it, Julie. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Thank
You
you.
said it great. Thank you. Okay. So that kind of, talks about that. So your inner world and outer world experience, right? How the inner state shapes results. Here's how the inner world connects to the outer experience. Your inner dialogue and your chosen thoughts shape your behavior, right? So, and then your behavior affects the signals that others pick up on, right? Do you show up with confidence or desperation? Do you show up with presence and authenticity? Clarity of communication, energy and engagement. So if your inner world is crap, excuse my language, it's going to affect your behavior, right? And that's going to affect the signals that you put out there in the universe. And that's going to affect the results you get, which is your outer experience, the quality of conversations, the level of engagement from others, momentum over time, opportunities that emerge. Does anyone have any examples of this that they want to share of how this has played out for them?
I like to think of it like dating, Joe. It's Dave Zabonik. I've been in search for 20 plus months now, and I've always been a glass half full guy. However, you can be as optimistic as you would like, and sometimes you're just you're in that negative space that you're talking about, and it takes gratitude to change your attitude eventually, and being okay with your potential worst case scenario. I think from a finance perspective, we all know how to model best, mid, and worst case scenarios. So like in my particular instance, I had modeled out my worst case scenario, and then my worst case scenario became even worse. So that was a very difficult thing to overcome for me, but I eventually did. And when I did, and when I said, hey, I did come up with a new worst case that isn't so bad. I mean, I could be a substitute teacher and teach baseball to high school kids and be as happy as a clam. Now, I wouldn't make the money I would want, but at least that gave me the new level of perspective that, I'm not going to be homeless or, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to rely on somebody else to take care of me. And once you get to that level of, hey, worst case scenario is not so bad, and you're okay with that, now let's talk about producing that better case or best case scenario. And when you do that, all the energy and the seeds you plant do come to fruition, because everything takes time. Timing is everything when it comes to job search. So you have to be in the right place at the right time with the right mindset and strike when the iron's hot. And right now, I'm a finalist for 3 jobs because my attitude has changed, and it is a VUCA market. So you can't deny that. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's the worst job market we've had in the history of the United States. However, crisis breeds opportunity. So you have to find the opportunity for yourself, and nobody's going to find it for you.
Thank you, David. That's great.
You got to seize the day.
Yes, seize the moment. Carpe diem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I ask for, yeah, it's me, Julie. Could I ask for a repeat of that acronym you just gave of VUCA market? Could you share that?
VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's a VUCA market. It's an economic term that is the worst time in our, and it's all due to 47. I don't like to get into politics because politics is I respect both sides of the fence.
Well, let's save it for after the
It's
workshop.
leadership starts at the top, and we know culture, right? So leadership starts at the top, and fear-based leadership just doesn't work anymore. We
Right.
need pluralization versus polarization.
Yeah. No, thank you, David. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And thank you again, myself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So next thing, daily rituals and build stamina. And David, touched on one thing, which was gratitude, and that's where we're at now. So consistency creates resilience. I'm all about having daily rituals. I wake up, let's say 5 a.m. I do my meditation for 10, 15 minutes. Gratitude, I have a gratitude app with 700 plus entries in there. And I do my visualization. I pray. I go to the gym, you know, eat healthy. All these things are part of my daily rituals, and it allows me to show up with a lot of energy, with a lot of power, a lot of positivity. And if I didn't do that, I'd be half the person, and I wouldn't attract what I'm attracting now. So it's resilience is really built through the daily practices, right? And I mentioned earlier self-awareness. It's a simple morning check-in to notice your inner dialogue without judgment. No judgment of where you're at. And then mindfulness. I know that's something Stephen has taken on this past year in 2025, I think, if it's okay for me to say, Stephen, which is meditation. And it calms the nervous system and it reduces overthinking. It's something I spoke to Stephen about in the past, and he's become amazing at meditation. He takes it on. He's more diligent with meditation than I am, so it's amazing. And then gratitude, right? It helps you stabilize perspective and attention. And there's a lot of connection with gratitude that reduces anxiety, stress, helps you sleep better, helps you eat better. It affects your body in different ways. So there's a lot of benefits of that. We only have a few more minutes. I'm almost done. So the next slide, we have two more slides. Values, right? I'm sure everyone here has heard of values. And, basically it's your internal compass, right? What are values? Values are the principles that guide your decisions and shape how you live and work. They are not aspirational. They're the qualities that, when present, make you feel aligned and energized, and when absent, creates a sense of unease and disconnection. And values aren't just chosen, you got to live them, right? Um, so think about, like, what values do you want to claim, but they may not be fully lived. Think about what quality do I admire in others, but resist in allowing myself. If I allowed more of that quality in, what could change in my search? Let's pause for like 60 seconds. Think about maybe one value that you want to adopt that maybe you're not fully living. And maybe think about a value in someone else that you would maybe want to adopt.
So I think one of the things that I did during my job search was consistency on what I was on the journey that I was on, and I think that was an important maturity for me.
Yeah, Stephen, thanks for sharing that. You are very consistent, and I'm sure that helped out. And you have to have a certain belief system to even be consistent, right? Because vision is not enough. Visualization, visualize myself being a millionaire, for example, whatever it is, but am I willing to take the consistent actions to execute to get me there? And what's the mindset that someone needs to be consistent? I was speaking to someone earlier, and they didn't want to commit to being consistent because there was a fear of failure. So sometimes you got to be okay with failing. You got to be okay with not being consistent. Just accept that. That's part of the human experience, not being consistent all the time and not being perfect.
I'd like to add a bit of a contribution that I think it's something that a lot of us, I'm going to say this for myself, but many people don't know how to be truly honest with themselves. So being brutally honest with yourself, developing a high level of self-integrity is one thing. Maybe this goes also to Stephen's level of consistency, but integrity is personal self-integrity is crucial, particularly when you're trying to stay cohesive with your mind and your heart and your desires, keeping that all in alignment.
Thank you, Julie. That's a great contribution. And integrity, I would say, imagine if a friend um, tells you they're going to meet you for dinner at 7 o'clock and they show up an hour late. And you meet weekly, and every week they show up an hour late, 2 hours late, 3 hours late. I'm assuming you're going to start trusting them less, right?
Mhm.
So we do that to ourselves when we commit to things, when we say we're going to do things and we don't do it, we start not trusting ourselves. And that affects our confidence. It affects a lot of different areas of life. So that kind of just, I'm connecting that with your comment, Julie, about integrity.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so almost done. Um, you know, as we wrap up, here's one question that I would love for you to sit with. What daily practice would most help you reduce inattention and stay steady during your search? Does anyone want to maybe add one thing that a daily practice that could be helpful for them during their search?
I will. I'm not doing it yet, but the year has just started and I'm just beginning my search. But I really like what Stephen said a while ago that he developed for himself a set of metrics. So that's something I'm going to implement under this particular question.
I think also not to be hard on yourself.
Mm.
If you didn't do all the things you set out to do, I think celebrate your small wins as well. I mean, if you thought that you were going to connect with four people, but you had only one person, but then that person developed into someone who genuinely is helping you, that's a win. And if you didn't connect with the other people, that's okay. Tomorrow's a brand new day.
Nice. Thank you, Stephen. So that takes us to the end of my little presentation, and I just want to offer this. Um, I'm happy to offer a complimentary strategy session to anyone who attended today, just to help you reach your next level, you know, to go
How
through.
nice.
Yeah, little nice offer for this group.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are there any questions, thoughts, feedback that anyone has that they would like to share before Stephen shares his experiences?
And
So, Joe, one question I had is, this part about this is maybe related to the question that Carolyn was asking on the chat was, you can visualize yourself as the best outcome that you want out of the process, but how do you negotiate the fact that maybe sometimes you might have an unrealistic expectation, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a little bit of a, two sides, right? Like, I mean, how do you sort of balance that tension?
Yeah, it's like
So,
an
and
internal conflict in terms of saying, well, if I do X, Y, and Z, I expect this type of result. And how realistic is that expectation? Because you may be doing what you're supposed to be doing on your end, but the feedback that you might expect is not translating. And then you start to, well, I know me personally, I'm always been very hard on myself, and then I start internalizing and saying, well, what am I doing wrong? What could I be doing differently? Or is it them?
yeah, no, thank you. And sorry, Prashant, thanks for bringing up the chat. I see now we have 34 messages. I'm not reviewing the chat, so if there's anything else, I'll respond to your comment. If there's anything else that I should respond to, I'm
Yeah, no, I
happy.
think this is good. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
So the question, Prashant, is how do you, I guess, balance being realistic with, is that the question? You know, balance
Yeah,
realistic
right,
with.
exactly. I mean, I think what the visualization, I think that's a great way. I like it, right? But at the same time, how do you be realistic that sometimes what you want may take a lot of time, right? So, I mean, some of the other routines that you mentioned might be the way to kind of get to the other end. But, there is a little bit of that tension between,
I,
the best outcome and getting there.
I would be happy to walk you or anyone else through like an actual live, conversation around it because it's kind of abstract right now. If I have something to work with, I can make up an example and we can go with that if that's easier.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fine.
so just making something up, if someone never was a CFO before and they don't have the experience, then it might be a little unrealistic for them to apply for that role, or they can visualize it all they want. Or if they never made um, $200,000 a year and they're going for a salary of 500 or 600, that's kind of unrealistic. They can visualize, but it has to be somewhat smart, like a SMART goal. You probably heard of the acronym: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time bound. But at the same time, I don't like that acronym because we want to be outer realistic. Realistic is for the average Joe, it's for the average person. We want to be above average. We want to create our reality. So maybe expanding that by 20%, 30% even, and realizing that salary is not everything. One of the things that I spoke to Stephen, if it's okay for me to say, Stephen, is what are the other
Yeah.
important factors? It's not just salary. Like, what about the culture? What about the leadership, right? Um, what about commuting? There's a lot of factors. So it's not always about the money. And also, you have to be somewhat in reality, but expanding what's possible. And also believing there is grace and we do have control and we can create our reality. But at the same time, I'm not going to visualize myself, building a city on the moon. I'm not Elon Musk. I don't, so I have to be in somewhat reality. But is it possible for me to raise my income by 20% compared to last year? Heck yeah. Extremely, extremely possible. Even 50%, maybe. I'm working with a nonprofit right now. They have about 30 employees. And for the first time, they're in the black. They've never been in the black before. We're working together for a year, and I helped them create the vision of 50% more, to raise 50% more than last year. And why did I say 50%? Because their systems and processes sucked. They weren't taking consistent action. The CEO was not delegating. They didn't have like a proper org chart. So based off what was available, like I realized if we just made some tiny tweaks and we had OKRs, we had quarterly goals and consistent action, and we expanded our mindset, then it is possible to raise 50% more. So it's a play by play. It depends on the person. I would have to sit with the person, talk with them, understand the context, understand their background to give like a more customized response. Does that help? Does that make sense?
That does. No, thanks, Joe.
And I want you to push back. I don't want anyone to accept what I'm saying. Please push back.
Joe, would you mind dropping your email into the chat?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, happy to do that. And Stephen, did you want to share anything?
No, I just Joe, first of all, thank you for this. I think this was extremely value added. It's a lot to take in for anybody. But if you break it down and think about what part of the what tools that Joe outlined, maybe that you think you might want to use, I think that's I think it would be helpful or a value added to your folks. But I think what I experienced with Joe was to be grounded, be honest with myself, be focused, and treat it as a journey, which helped me become more resilient and less hard on myself. even if I had a bad day, because we all have bad days. But it's not the end of the world. You just treat it as a journey and chug it along, but keep the end in mind, and you're fine. As the other gentleman said earlier, right now he has 3 potential offers coming his way, which is fantastic. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations on that.
Oh, don't jinx me. Don't jinx me. That's it's very competitive, and all 3 of those offers I could strike out. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If I do strike out, guess what? I'm gonna go grab a bat and I'm gonna get 3 more and then 3 more because
Good.
I'm never gonna be completely out.
Stay abundant thinking. Very good.